Chuck Martin, author, speaker extraordinaire, mobile expert. Welcome.
Hey, Rob. Great to be back.
The problem that the book solves, or is trying to solve.
What struck me is that what is coming is another dramatic transformational behavioral change. I look for technology that drives behavioral change and then try to identify what is the behavioral change, because the technology doesn't kind of really matter by itself. If it doesn't change behavior, it doesn't. I mean, carousels at Walmart that spin around at checkout where you then put your own bag, that's not technological in terms of digital, but it changed behavior of how everybody shops in terms of the very last stage. People actually put things in their basket by themselves. Well, that was an unbelievable transfer of labor from the business to the consumer without ever anybody getting directions on we were going to do that. And that's everywhere. I mean, then we went digital with that. Check-in at airports, check-in at hotels, self-check-in. All of a sudden, we've transferred labor to the consumer via the technology. Well, what I saw a while back coming is a transformation in how people actually shop. Not just how they buy things, not the transaction, but what's the behavioral aspect of shopping. And what mobile does, it transfers shopping from being a serial function to becoming an iterative function. The serial function used to be, I go shopping. I'm now at home, I'm going to the store, or I'm going shopping, or I'm going online, I'm going shopping. With mobile, you don't go shopping, you are shopping. And you're shopping pretty much all the time. And what that means for anyone who sells something, and it's not just a physical retailer, that means the interactions are totally different, because you can miss through this cycle. It used to be the old traditional sales funnel, which is dead, is that awareness, consideration, all that, and ultimately you get to purchase, and then it's all done. They're all over. It's not like that with mobile. It's really a continuous cycle, and you can. What I identified in the books are there are influence points or places where you can influence the behavior in the purchase cycle. And if some of those points you don't play in, you will have no influence in the final purchase decision, which means you don't get the benefit of the transaction.
Where should we be looking? What's the exciting part now that people should be focusing on?
Well, there are a lot of parts, and one of the things that companies need to look at is what is the capability in the device where you can play. And that's what we talk about in the whole shopping life cycle, where we know we're going to be physically at home. You know when somebody's at home because you can tell that their phone is not moving to start with. It's generally on a weekend or in the evening. It's often on a tablet, not necessarily a smartphone. So it's not magic to figure this stuff out. And then ultimately, then when someone is going from point A to point B, that's another opportunity to influence, what we call in transit. And there will be the in transit in terms of shopping behavior will be somebody going from here to there to go to a store to look at buying something, or they'll be out roaming about, which means there's an opportunity to sell them something. In either case, there's an opportunity to reach the person while they're in transit. And that's where you get geofences and accelerometers and all the kinds of technologies that are in phones that you can tell that a phone is moving, where it's going, all that sort of thing. Then the opportunity is when you get on location. And again, this is all location based, which I know is where you live. Location is so key, and so many companies don't get it. They're so naively approaching location in terms of what they could be doing versus what they are doing. But that's going to change over time. But then someone's on location, they're at a physical place where they can make the purchase, and that's where you want to influence behavior in a very big way, because they haven't made the final purchase. Then they get near the product, and then it's basically proximity to the physical good, the specific thing you're looking to buy. That's another chance to influence them to basically go buy something else, not that. It's not necessarily to influence that. It's the competitor to say, look, don't buy this. We'll give you this deal on this other thing that we have over here. And yeah, it's across town, but guess what? You just push this button, tap here, and we'll just send it to your house, or you can pick it up at our store on the way home.
Absolutely.
And then when you get to the transaction, that's the point of purchase opportunity. That's where this is where transactions matter, because if you control the transaction point of purchase, the influence point of transaction at point of sale, then you can influence by saying, okay, we will incent you now to get more of whatever you just got. we'll give you a deal on what you're getting if you add this to it right now. And that's a lot of value that a consumer would get at basically the point of sale. And then, of course, the influence point after the sale is, what do you do after? How do you get involved in the conversation that a person is going to have with their friends and say, hey, look what I just bought. Here's a photo of it. But the big thing in mobile right now is really transaction. If you look at advertising versus transaction, and if you say advertising is that big and it's going to be that big, well, transactions are this big and they're going to be, you can't even see my hands off the screen, that big. And that's where we're moving to, $1 trillion in a few years, moving through mobile devices. I mean, that's borderline a lot of money. I mean, I know you're in Canada, but in the US we talk trillions all the time because we have a lot of debt. But it's still, I mean, no one's got $1 trillion most people don't have $1 trillion of anything, never mind a billion. So that's where things are going right now in terms of the facilitation of commerce, which is why I did mobile influence, obviously, because we're right now we're at the 10% stage, and you'll probably appreciate this. I did some research several weeks ago. And if you look at the penetration of the things that you and I do all the time, like scanning things for price checking, having 2 apps to identify songs as opposed to one, those kinds of things, it's right around 10%. Like 8% of people scan things in stores, 10% have done something at point of sale. We're 11% have done this, 9% have done that. And I went through about 15 or 20 things. The things that are really the power of the mobile device, we're really at the 10% stage. Even though we're at 55, 60% penetration of smartphones, the usage is still down around 10%. That is going to grow, but that's the reality of the market right now.
So in all your travels, in all the research that you did for mobile influence, which I implore anybody who's listening to this or watching this, go and buy this book, please. You know, it is an incredible read, and it is certainly something that will change your mind. Even if you are not in retail, you're not selling, you have to read these books. And then while you're at it, you might as well get the third screen as well.
Well, thank you.
But so in all the research that you've done, you've spent so much time, you've been immersed in the mobile space. What are you seeing? Like, are you seeing some emerging trends in shopping and retail? I mean, what are you seeing on a global scale that we can leave the fine listener or watcher some kind of insight into where this is going and how it's going to impact them as a business and as consumers?
The big thing is that the knowledge of where somebody is and what their basically situational relevance. We're going to be able to interact with people in situational relevance. We're going to be interact with them not based on just where they are, but what's the situation in which they are there. And ultimately, we're going to be able to tie together supply, demand, time, and location. And that's the real key to this. That's the long term where everything is going, where we're going to be able to link the supply chain to the actual situation of where a consumer is, and that will determine the value and the price of a product, because price and value will be coordinated when that happens. I don't mean it's not too philosophical here, but
okay.
But that's really where it's going, and that's the. It's not just looking at location, it's looking at context and what time is it? What did other people do there? Is it raining out? What season is it? What was the behavior of the person the last 3 times they did this thing when they were there? Or does it look like they're going to be there for a while, or does it look like they're just blowing through? And you can tell by the motion of a phone. I mean, this is not magic, it's just technology. And all the stuff now can be tracked. And when you put big data on the back of, big data is like Buzz City, but if you put big data on the to tie that to the behavior shopping aspects of the consumer, then you can really provide some real value. The bottom line for a business is to ask the question, if I do this, what value does the customer get from it? What is the value? And that will determine whether somebody should do a certain thing or not.